The ranch is quiet in a way it has never been, and the morning fog sits heavy over the fields as if the land itself cannot let go of Tim's soft piano rises under a slow drone shot of the Hudson churchyard where rows of weathered stones fade into the mist as the camera glides past wet grass and fresh tire tracks leading to a small cluster of mourners. A black ribbon moves in the wind on the church door and the bell gives a single toll that hangs in the air. The screen holds on the ribbon. Then cuts to the Heartland ranch at dawn. No voices, only the sound of a wind vane turning, a barn door creaking, a distant horse shifting in its stall. The yard is swept but empty as if everyone left in a hurry. A saddle rests on a fence rail and beads of rain gather along the worn leather. The camera drifts closer and lingers on a name burned into the saddle. Tim Receiver. In a calm, steady tone, he spent his life charging into storms for the people he loved. He was loud, he was stubborn, he made mistakes, but he never left a horse or a person behind. Today, his road ends and ours must go on. The music deepens. A white pickup slows beside the churchyard. Lou steps out first. The camera never shows her face, only her hands as she smooths the crease in her black coat and retrieves a folded paper from the seat. Her fingers tremble just enough to tell the truth. She closes the truck door and the sound feels too final. Amy arrives in a dark wool coat. She carries a small framed photo of Tim at the rodeo, hat tipped and grin alive with dust and sun. She cradles it against her chest like a fragile trinket. To the aisle inside the church, the pews glow with pale window light and every bouquet is simple white. The lens moves along the wood until it finds Jack standing near the front, still as a fence post. His hat is in his hands, not on his head. His thumb rubs the brim again and again. A breath leaves him slow. The camera passes by Lisa, who places a hand on his arm. They do not speak, they do not need to. The bell tolls again and the piano lowers to a hush. Outside, a horse snickers from somewhere beyond the hill. The voiceover returns for a man who ran toward bucking hooves and hard choices. Silence was the only thing he never learned to break. The shot widens to the open field beyond the church, a field Tim once crossed at sunset after a long day working colts. The sky today is gray and flat. The wind lifts and lets fall a line of prayer cards on a small table by the door. Each card carries the same photo as Amy holds and the same years beneath the name. The camera does not linger on the dates, it lingers on the space between them where a whole life fits. Lou and Amy meet by the steps. They do not speak. At first, Lou holds the paper, Amy holds the frame, their shoulders angle toward each other and then away. A beat of doubt, then Amy shifts the frame to one arm and reaches for Lou. Lou nods and squeezes back. It is awkward and real and brave. The voiceover family breaks and mends like old wood. It holds because it must. They start up the steps together. The music gathers a little warmth but stays quiet inside. The casket rests up front beneath a plain spray of white roses. A cowboy hat sits beside it. Spartan's bridle lies coiled near the flowers. The camera never shows more than a respectful edge, a shine of polished wood, a thread of white ribbon. A young usher moves down the aisle offering tissues and guiding neighbors to seats. Familiar faces from the ranch, hands from town, the vet, the feed store owner, people who knew Tim for years. A chair stands empty near the front, reserved by a single rose. The voiceover, some goodbyes come from far away, some arrive late, some still find their way. The camera holds for one last breath as the doors close soft and the service begins. The church door opens again and the sound of the wind follows Lou and Amy inside. Wooden pews creak as people rise to greet them with quiet nods. Faces they have known all their lives line the rows, neighbors, friends, old ranch hands, all wearing the same expression of disbelief. The air is thick with the scent of rain-soaked coats and flowers. No one speaks above a whisper, yet the silence feels louder than any word could be. Lou walks slowly down the aisle, each step heavier than the last. Amy follows behind her, clutching that same framed photo of Tim, the one where he looked alive in a way that made the world around him seem brighter. Jack stands near the front, his eyes fixed on the casket. He doesn't turn when they approach, but his jaw tightens just slightly, a small flicker of emotion that says everything. Lisa is beside him, her hand resting on his arm, steadying him in the same way she always did when words failed. The camera holds on Jack's hat, still in his hands, the brim worn from years of work. It's the same hat he wore when he first took Tim under his wing, a small reminder that even the strongest hearts can break quietly. The camera shifts to Lou. She looks around the church and sees the people who have come, But her eyes keep drifting to Amy. There's a space between them that feels wider than the aisle they stand in. Grief has made strangers of them again, just like the old days when they couldn't see past their differences. Lou glances at her folded speech, the ink smudged from her damp fingers. She isn't sure she can read it, not without breaking down. Amy notices and steps a little closer, not enough to touch her, but enough to say without words, "I'm here." The voiceover returns, soft and steady. Sometimes loss pulls people apart, but sometimes it reminds them of the roots they share. The same pain, the same love. The camera pans across the faces of the mourners. A tear slides down Katie's cheek as she leans into Lisa's shoulder. The family sits close together, yet every one of them seems alone in their grief. Outside, the rain begins to fall again. Light at first, then steady. The sound of it against the old church roof becomes a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, slow, sure, alive. Then a car door shuts outside. Heads turn. The doors open once more, and a figure steps in from the rain, coat dark and hair damp. It's Georgie. For a moment, no one moves. She has been gone for years, chasing her own path far from Heartland, far from the pain that home sometimes carried. But now she's here, her eyes red, her expression soft with regret. Amy gasps quietly, the sound small but full of emotion. Georgie's gaze meets hers, and all the years between them fall away. She walks forward slowly, hands trembling as she removes her gloves and places them on the nearest pew. Lou stands too, tears welling before she can stop them. Georgie whispers, "I couldn't stay away." Her voice cracks on the last word, and she steps closer to Amy, then to Lou. The three women stand together for the first time in years. No speeches, no apologies, just silence, and the shared weight of loss that binds them again. The camera draws back, showing them as a single figure against the sea of mourners. The voiceover fades in once more. Family isn't built from perfect moments. It's built from the ones that hurt, the ones that remind us what it means to love. The scene closes on the sound of the rain easing outside and the faint creak of the church door settling back into place. Inside, three generations stand united, facing the front, facing goodbye, ready to listen to the words that will try to make sense of what can never truly be explained. The screen fades from the quiet church interior to the golden light of memory. A hand lifts a photo from the small table near the casket, and as the camera zooms in, the world around it comes to life. The sound of laughter fills the air, and suddenly, we are back on the ranch years earlier. The sun is rising, the horses run across the field, and Tim's voice cuts through the morning like it always did, firm, alive, full of stubborn hope. He's teaching Amy to ride again after her fall, his voice teasing but patient. She glares at him but laughs in the next breath. That laughter echoes softly over the present-day silence. The narration begins low and calm. He wasn't the kind of man who said "I love you" often, but he showed it in the way he fixed fences at midnight, or how he stayed until every horse was calm. The camera moves through different memories, Tim leaning against the barn, talking to Jack over coffee. Tim holding newborn Katie in his arms, nervous but smiling. Tim standing at Lou's wedding, clapping louder than anyone. Each image carries the warmth of years that passed too fast. The colors shift between the golden hues of memory and the muted tones of the present, blending past and present like the pull of two tides. Then comes a scene from the rodeo. Dust swirls, and the crowd cheers as Tim rides hard, holding on through pain and pride. The music swells, a mix of drums and violins. The narrator continues, "He fell, got back up, and fell again. But every scar told a story about courage, and every failure taught him how to fight a little harder for the people he loved." The shot freezes on Tim tipping his hat toward the crowd, sunlight flaring behind him. For a heartbeat, he looks unstoppable, immortal. Back in the church, Amy stares at the same photograph she brought. Her thumb moves slowly across the glass as though tracing his face. Lou looks toward her sister and sees tears forming in her eyes. She remembers another day, one burned into her memory, Tim showing up unannounced at her office, stubbornly offering to help with the ranch books even though she told him she had it under control. "You never let anyone help you," he said. "You always think you have to carry everything alone." Lou smiled then, But now those words echoed differently. In the silence of the church, they sound like a farewell. The film cuts again to a scene by the lake. Tim stands beside Jack, both men older, watching the horses drink. Jack laughs quietly and shakes his head. "You still don't listen, do you?" Tim answers with a grin. "Wouldn't be me if I did." The music softens, and the narrator says, "He and Jack fought like brothers, but they forgave like fathers." There was no one who understood Tim better, and no one who missed him more. The camera returns to the present where Jack's hand tightens on the edge of the pew, his knuckles white, his eyes distant. A final memory plays. Tim sitting by the corral at dusk, watching Amy ride Spartan. The sky burns orange and red. "She's got your fire," Jack says from behind him. Tim nods without looking away. "She's got yours too." The memory lingers there, frozen in that moment of peace. Then, slowly, the sound fades, replaced by the whisper of rain against the church windows. The narrator's voice lowers. "He left behind more than horses and fences. He left behind strength, stubbornness, and love, the kind that doesn't end just because a heartbeat does." The screen transitions back to the funeral. The piano rises softly again, and the congregation sits motionless. Faces are wet, eyes downcast. But in every heart there is a picture playing quietly, a moment they shared with Tim. His laughter, his temper, his lessons. Each one a thread in the fabric of who they became. Lou wipes her tears and looks at Amy. For the first time since the service began, Amy smiles through her grief. That simple, fragile smile carries more meaning than any eulogy could. The camera pulls away slowly, showing the family together in silence, surrounded by the echo of memories that will never truly fade. The rain has stopped. A thin ray of sunlight pushes through the gray clouds and slides across the church windows, spilling soft gold on the wooden floor. The pastor steps aside, and Lou rises slowly from the front pew. The paper in her hand is wrinkled, the ink blurred by tears that fell long before this moment. She hesitates, looking at the crowd, friends, family, faces that carry the same hurt she does. Then she takes a deep breath and walks to the podium. Her heels echo softly in the silent church. Every step feels like a conversation with the past, every breath a fight to stay steady. The camera holds on her hands as she sets the paper down. She doesn't read right away. Her eyes lift toward the coffin, then to the photograph resting nearby. For a moment, she just stands there, lost in memory. Her voice breaks the silence at last, quiet but strong enough to fill the room. "My dad wasn't an easy man to love," she begins. "He argued when he should have listened. He left when he should have stayed. But he always came back. No matter how far he went, he always came back to us." Her words drift through the air, and people nod slightly, each remembering a different version of the same man. Lou's eyes glisten as she continues. "He taught me that doing the right thing doesn't mean it's the easy thing. He taught me that family isn't about being perfect, it's about showing up, even when you're angry, even when you've made a mess of things." Her fingers tighten around the podium. "He made mistakes. So did I. But in his own way, he showed me that love isn't about the moments you get right. It's about how you fix what you broke." The church is utterly still. Even the wind outside seems to have stopped to listen. Amy's face softens as she watches her sister. She remembers nights when she and Lou barely spoke, both too stubborn to reach across the space between them. But now, hearing Lou's voice tremble with honesty, that distance feels smaller. The camera pans to Amy, who leans forward slightly, eyes shining, silently cheering her sister on. Lou takes another breath. He was the kind of man who didn't know how to say sorry. So he'd build a fence, fix a truck, or show up with coffee instead. He showed love through his hands, through work, through stubborn care. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it's better that way. Her voice wavers, and she presses her lips together. He loved this land, these horses, this family. And if he's watching now, she pauses, looking up toward the ceiling. "I hope he knows we finally understand." The sound of a single sniffle echoes in the back row, then another. The camera lingers on Georgie, tears on her cheeks, her hand gripping Amy's. She whispers something too soft to hear, but the emotion is clear. Amy places her free hand over Lou's on the podium. Lou looks at her sister, startled at first, then grateful. They hold that connection for a moment longer than they ever have before. The narration returns, quiet and heartfelt. Sometimes it takes saying goodbye to remember how much you were loved. And sometimes it takes love to finally let go. Lou picks up her paper again but doesn't look at it. "Goodbye, Dad," she whispers. "You were never perfect, but you were ours." She steps away from the podium and moves toward the casket. The light shifts again, brighter now, touching the flowers, the wood, the faces of everyone gathered. Amy and Georgie follow behind her. Together, they place a single white rose on the casket. The piano music swells, not sad this time, but peaceful. Lou steps back into Amy's arms. For the first time in a long time, they hold each other without fear or pride. The narrator closes softly. In the end, love is not measured by the years we get, but by the people who carry us forward. The camera rises, showing the family standing together, sunlight washing over them. The sound of a horse neighing drifts faintly from the distance, Spartan, restless, waiting by the fence. The screen fades to white, and in simple text appears the line, "In memory of Tim Fleming, forever part of Heartland." The church has emptied now. The rain-soaked guests have drifted toward their trucks and cars, speaking in hushed voices as the doors close and engines start. The sound fades, leaving behind a deep, echoing quiet. Only Amy remains inside. She stands near the front, motionless, the photograph of her father still in her hands. The candles on the altar flicker in the draft from the half-open door, casting shifting shadows on the polished floor. Outside, the air is clearing. The storm that began with the funeral has finally passed. The light seeping through the window is softer now, gentler, almost like the ranch at dawn. Amy steps closer to the casket. She doesn't cry at first. She just looks at it, her eyes wide and tired, her breathing slow and uneven. In her mind, she sees him again, Tim, standing by the corral, hat tilted, that same stubborn half-smile that meant he was about to lecture her on something. She hears his voice. "You can't fix a horse you don't trust, Amy, and you can't heal a heart you keep shut." The words echo faintly, and for a second, she almost answers him. But no sound leaves her lips. Instead, she sets the photograph down beside his hat, the one he wore every day until it faded to the color of dust. The camera moves closer, showing Amy's fingers brushing the edge of the casket. Her touch is light, like she's afraid it might break. Her voice comes out barely above a whisper. "You were right, Dad, about everything I didn't want to hear." Her throat tightens, but she doesn't hold it back this time. "I used to think you were too hard on me. I used to think you didn't understand me. But now," she pauses, eyes glistening, "I see it was love, just a kind that was rough around the edges." Her words hang in the air, fragile and honest. The camera cuts to Spartan waiting outside the church, tied to the fence. His ears flick toward the sound of Amy's voice. The wind tugs at his mane, and the faint neigh that follows feels like a reply. Amy turns her head slightly, hearing it. A small, bittersweet smile curves on her lips. She takes one last look at the coffin, tracing the ribbon of white roses with her eyes. The narrator's voice returns, gentle and low. "Every daughter thinks there will be more time. One more ride, one more talk, one more chance to make things right. But love doesn't keep time. It just waits to be remembered." Amy bends down and places her hand flat on the wood. "Thank you," she says softly, "for pushing me, for believing I could do more, for loving me, even when I didn't see it." The piano melody returns, slow and delicate. She straightens, wipes a tear from her cheek, and turns toward the door. The sunlight outside has grown brighter, breaking through the clouds completely. It floods the church as she walks out, washing the scene in warm gold. Outside, Amy approaches Spartan and unties the reins. She runs a hand along his neck, her fingers sinking into his coat. "Let's go home," she whispers. Spartan exhales, almost as if he understands. She mounts and turns him toward the open fields. The camera follows as they move away from the church, the distant hills glowing in the afternoon light. No words now, just the sound of hooves against the soft earth and the wind through the grass. The narrator closes with a single line. "Tim taught her to write, to fight, to feel, and to forgive." And now, as she rides into the horizon, She carries him in every heartbeat, in every breath, in every sunrise that finds its way back to Heartland. The camera lingers on Amy and Spartan growing smaller in the distance until they fade into the golden haze. The piano fades too, replaced by the sound of the wind and a faint echo of Tim's laughter, warm, free, eternal. The screen slowly turns black. The sound of hooves breaks the stillness long before anyone sees her. A single rider appears over the ridge, the late afternoon light catching the dust that rises beneath the horse's stride. The camera zooms in as Georgie pulls her hood down, her face framed by the soft wind. Her eyes are swollen, not from the ride but from the tears she's been fighting since she heard the news. She hasn't been home in years, too many rodeos, too many roads, too many reasons not to face what she left behind. But today, every mile she traveled led her back here. As she rides closer to the ranch, her voice enters as a quiet thought, not spoken aloud. I used to think leaving made me stronger. Now I know it only made me slower to come back. She slows her horse, the wind tugging at her jacket as the old Heartland sign comes into view. The ranch looks different, older, quieter, but it still feels like home. The fields are wet from the rain, and the sky glows in soft colors, pink and amber brushing the clouds. She dismounts, boots landing in the mud, and for a moment she just stands there, breathing in the smell of earth and hay, letting the memories find her again. Inside the barn, Amy is brushing Spartan, her movements steady but her face distant. The sound of footsteps makes her turn. For a heartbeat, she freezes. Georgie stands in the doorway, backlit by the fading light. Neither of them speaks. The camera captures the moment in slow motion, the shock, the disbelief, the sudden rush of emotion that neither was ready for. Amy's voice trembles. Georgie? The word comes out small, fragile. Georgie nods once, her lips parting but no sound escaping. She takes a step forward, and Amy meets her halfway. When they finally embrace, it isn't a dramatic reunion. It's quiet and full of unspoken forgiveness. Years of distance dissolve in that single moment. Amy's eyes close, and Georgie's breath catches as if she's been holding it for too long. The narrator's voice returns, soft and reflective. Sometimes it takes a loss to find your way home. Sometimes it takes goodbye to remember where you belong. The two women pull apart, both smiling through their tears. Spartan nudges Georgie's shoulder gently, and she laughs, an honest, broken laugh that fills the barn with something it hasn't held in days. Life. Cut to Lou walking toward them from the porch. She stops when she sees her niece, covering her mouth in surprise. Georgie steps forward, and Lou meets her with open arms. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, Georgie whispers. You're here now, Lou answers, her voice trembling with warmth. They hold each other tight as the last light fades behind them. The camera pans up to the horizon where the first stars begin to appear, faint but steady. Inside the house, the family gathers for a small meal, plates barely touched. There's laughter now, soft, hesitant, but real. Georgie tells stories from the road, about horses she's trained, places she's seen, and moments she wished Tim could have witnessed. He'd have told me I was doing it wrong, she says with a crooked grin. Jack chuckles quietly. That's how you know he was proud. The table grows quiet again, but it's a comfortable quiet, one filled with understanding instead of emptiness. Later that night, Georgie steps outside. The moonlight spills across the pasture, and in the distance, she can see Spartan grazing near the fence. The ranch hums with life again, crickets, wind, the soft rustle of trees. She whispers into the night, "Goodbye, Grandpa Tim. I came home, just like you wanted." The breeze answers her, carrying the faint scent of rain and wild sage. The narrator closes the scene with a final reflection. Home isn't the place you stay, it's the place that waits for you, no matter how long it takes to return. The camera pulls back, showing the Heartland ranch glowing under the moon, lights flickering in the windows, the sound of laughter faint in the distance. For the first time since the funeral, the world feels whole again. The screen fades to black, and the final line appears in white. Every return begins with the promise of love that never left. The morning after the funeral, the world feels quieter than it should. The sun climbs slowly over the hills, spilling light over the ranch where dew glistens like tiny stars across the grass. Jack stands alone by the corral, leaning against the fence. His hat shades his eyes, and his hands rest on the weathered wood that's seen more years than most men could count. The air smells of wet earth and hay, the kind of scent that always reminded him life keeps going, no matter how much it hurts. A soft wind drifts through, carrying the echo of hooves and laughter sounds that feel too familiar to be gone. Jack clears his throat, his voice low and heavy but steady. "You sure found a way to leave your mark, cowboy," he murmurs. "Didn't make it easy for any of us." He pauses, looking out across the open fields. "You drove me crazy half the time, but I can't pretend I didn't respect you. You had heart, maybe too much of it." His hand grips the fence tighter. "You left your girls stronger than they know, and you left me proud." Even if I never said it enough, the camera circles slowly around him, framing his face in the soft light. His expression is unreadable, a mix of sorrow, pride, and peace. "You know, Tim," he says, voice breaking slightly, "I used to think we were just two old fools trying to prove who was tougher. But now I see we were trying to prove something else, that we still mattered." He takes off his hat and holds it over his chest. "Well, you mattered. More than you knew." The wind stirs again, lifting dust and sunlight in a single swirl, as though the land itself is listening. Amy and Lou walk out from the house, joining him by the fence. Georgie follows, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She hands one to Jack without a word. He takes it, nodding his thanks. For a while, none of them speak. The silence between them isn't empty anymore, it's full of understanding. The camera captures their reflections in the window of the barn. 4 figures standing together, all shaped by the same loss but bound by the same love. The narrator's voice drifts in softly. "Grief never leaves. It just learns to live beside us. But love, it never fades. It grows roots so deep, not even time can pull them free." The camera pans over the fields, showing Spartan running along the fence line, mane glowing in the light. Amy watches him and smiles faintly. "He's calmer today," she says quietly. Lou nods. Maybe he feels Dad watching. Jack smiles too, the kind of small, tired smile that means everything will be all right. They begin walking back toward the house, their shadows stretching long across the grass. The ranch hums softly with life again, birds calling, horses shifting, wind in the trees. The piano music rises, tender and hopeful. As they reach the porch, Amy turns for one last look at the corral. The camera follows her gaze to the far edge of the pasture where, for just a second, sunlight flares in the shape of a rider on horseback. It's faint, fleeting, and gone in an instant, but she sees it, and she smiles. Jack's voice returns one last time, not in dialogue but as a closing reflection. "Tim was like a wild stallion. You could fight him, you could chase him, but you could never break him. And maybe that's the way he was meant to go free." The screen fades slowly to the wide view of Heartland, the ranch glowing under the soft golden light of morning. The words appear in white against the sky. Even after goodbye, family rides on. The music swells gently, carrying the warmth of the final moment. Lou, Amy, Georgie, and Jack stand together on the porch, arms around one another. The camera pulls back until the ranch becomes small against the horizon, a home rebuilt, a family reborn. The last line fades in, quiet and steady, like a heartbeat. For every ending, there's a beginning waiting in the sunrise.